So anyway, thanks for spending some time with us today. We ended up working with Jason on a piece of a project, actually. And I thought maybe what we could do is walk into, what's your role, what does Dentons do, and maybe we can dive into what the bigger initiative was and what the drivers were on the bigger initiative, and then we'll work our way into the rest of this.
Yeah, sure. So Dentons is a global law firm. We're one of the top 10 in the world. And
formerly SNR.
Formerly SNR.
Right.
Formerly
Sun and Shine.
Sun and Shine before that. So
after several mergers.
Yeah, a few iterations and mergers, and really a high growth company, and really wants to be number one in the world. So they're actively pursuing acquisitions and mergers and things to that effect to get to that number one spot. Over the next 5 years, that's the goal. So,
and just roughly, how many users, how many locations, just so we know.
So we've got probably, I haven't counted recently, but we've got over 60, I think, locations across the globe. We're in places, in the Middle East. We're in Asia. We're in, all throughout North America, all throughout Europe. So really spread out. And I've been in legal industry for about 8 years now. But before Dentons, I joined Dentons in January. Before that, I was at Mayor Brown in a very similar role. So I've been in legal industry for about 8 years, and there's a lot of demanding users that I think we all have. But lawyers really are up there. I have to say they're probably up there with traders and how crazy they get when things don't work. So.
Yeah, I would agree. We work with a diverse group of users that are represented in this room, and doctors are probably a close second, but lawyers are right up there. So maybe kind of walk through what the broader initiative was, and some of the big drivers behind what that initiative was.
Sure. So we undertook this year a desktop refresh, and with this desktop refresh, we wanted to take a new look at the technology. So the firm had been looking at Citrix as a virtual desktop solution for a number of years, and so when I came on board, one of the first things that I was tasked with was ensuring that the back-end infrastructure, because really all things infrastructure fall under me, all things network infrastructure, messaging, storage, all of it, data centers, everything worldwide. And so they said, okay, we're gonna roll out this new desktop, and we need it to work optimally. The users haven't had a good experience. We're still running very old software, very old versions of Office. So this is a big push to really get this out this year and complete this project this year. So on the back end, anybody familiar with Citrix, it's you're building out your back end rather than your desktops and things like that. So, but at the same time, the firm didn't want to push users into Citrix. So we didn't want to just give them this solution and say this is your only solution. There were a lot of users not comfortable making that migration to a virtual desktop. They wanted to be able to take their laptop with them wherever they went, have it work offline. Just a lot of people weren't comfortable with that approach. At the same time, they said, well, but we're also going to let people select what they want to use. If they don't want to use Citrix, we're not going to make them. So, build the infrastructure for that too. So, so one of the first things I did was, and this is kind of a sidebar to what I think I'm really here to talk about. But building the back end was, we looked at a blade technology, and I ended up with Cisco UCS. A lot of people here might be familiar with that.
Yeah, and I really thought, when we talked about it initially, I thought that this was a great piece of it, because so many folks are actually looking at that technology, and you guys just had an experience with it. So I thought that would be a great part of the discussion.
Yeah, and at my previous firm, we had looked at the same technology, and we ended up actually implementing Cisco UCS there. So I was familiar with it. I knew what it could do, and really the biggest benefit there. I mean, a lot of people think blades are blades, but that's not really the case, because what Cisco has done is they've really built it from the ground up, and they've done it in a way that it really cuts your administrative overhead. So all my smart guys that are doing this, it cuts their time on administering the blade environment by 70, 80, 90%. I mean, it really does. They've made it that simple, that easy, that modular, and it just works too.
Yeah, that's great. And Cisco's not a sponsor, but this is about objective technology talk, so that's okay. Maybe
so anybody looking at blade technology, I would really encourage you to look at that. It's been a great time saver for us, really, just on the administrative overhead alone.
So dig into the where WAN Op falls into the whole picture and what your thoughts were on what that was going to solve.
Yeah, so as part of the desktop rollout, it was really impressed on IT that they wanted a really optimal performance from the new desktop. We wanted to make sure that it was going to perform everywhere in a lot of these remote locations as well as we could. And so anytime, so we're a centralized environment. We have centralized data centers in each region of the world, aside from Asia, actually, and we don't have anything in the Middle East either, which I found a little surprising. So everyone is coming back either to London or to the Chicago area for their data. So in any type of centralized data center solution, WAN optimization really needs to be a part of that conversation. So we actually evaluated, even though I came in a little, my view was a little skewed because I was actually a Riverbed customer for really the last 7 years. I think that if we won, we were version 1.5 at my previous firm. We'd done a big data centralization project at my previous firm too. So I was very familiar with Riverbed, very comfortable with the technology, a big supporter of what they do, and just really have seen the product mature over the years. And so, but at the same time, we wanted to keep an open mind and evaluate the different technologies. So we looked at Citrix's solution, since we were looking at the Citrix desktop. We looked at Cisco WAS, and we obviously looked at Riverbed as well. And far and away, even after the evaluation, people that weren't familiar with WAN optimization, some of my, what I call my smart guys, my engineers, they, every one of them, said Riverbed was the winner. It's just to give you an example, we had when we set up the proof of concept in our lab, we had Cisco in to set theirs up, and it was about 3 days that they were there, trying to get it to work, and in the end, it kind of did work, and I'm a big Cisco fan when it comes to their switching and everything else. I mean, that's what we use. But for WAN optimization, Riverbed was in, and it took them to about 2 hours to show my guys, and it was up and running. And in fact, just a humorous side note, if you go out to YouTube, there's a video of, I think it's the marketing director for Riverbed, where he's got his daughter actually setting up 2 Riverbeds to optimize. He's got a 6-year-old daughter, I think she's 6, setting up Riverbed, and it takes her about 10 minutes in the video to follow the instructions. She's reading it, she's following the instructions and setting it up. So they're trying to make a point that it really is simple to set up, and in our experience, that's. So
I think Jason just effectively closed our WAN integration business at RKON. Thanks a lot, Jason. I'm kidding.
So so we've actually completed all of our offices now, except for Asia, and that's actually one of the lessons learned was so in a lot of these parts of the world where we operate, sometimes it's difficult to get equipment in. So in the Middle East, we knew that was the case. In China, we had a feeling that was going to be the case as well. But so in the Middle East, I went with actually companies in those countries to get the Riverbeds into those countries. However, I didn't do that in China. I went through. I purchased in the U.S.
Well, that was a mistake.
Went through RKON, tried to get them into China, and so all my boxes are in all the places that they should be, except for China. So, lesson learned: if you're doing something international where it's difficult to get the boxes in, buy from in country. I mean, that's one of the lessons.
And we would concur with that too. We want happy clients, and China has been on and off a problem, so we would agree with that.
So after just some of the results of the project, the WAN optimization project. Now we've completed about 60% of our desktop rollout, and it's been very successful. Both people happy with the back-end performance. WAN optimization has been a big part of that as well, especially for a lot of the remote regions that we service and a lot of our remote offices. So it's been a very successful project. Just some of the challenges and some of the things that the WAN optimization won't solve for you. It's not going to solve if you have other performance problems somewhere else, like storage or some other bottleneck somewhere. WAN optimization isn't going to help that. It's not going to solve that. It's not a solution for any of your performance problems that are out there. But if you have data centers that are centralized, you really should look at some kind of WAN optimization because it's going to help alleviate some of that latency that the users are going to feel, especially the farther away they get from a data center. So it's really going to help in those situations.
How often do you think organizations misinterpret that as not enough bandwidth and add bandwidth versus WAN op to solve latency?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So another result of what we saw was almost a doubling of our bandwidth availability. And when you're operating in countries where bandwidth is very expensive, like China or like the Middle East, where it's outrageously expensive because there's just no competition, then being able to effectively double your bandwidth by just optimizing and compressing is huge. So, and I do think a lot of companies, try to throw bandwidth at problems when, it can really be solved with some sort of WAN optimization.
Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding. What when you were going through the process, what were the other surprises and things that you were worried about but didn't turn out to be issues, and maybe things you weren't worried about that turned out to be issues? What other challenges did you guys run into along the way?
I will say that. So I'm not a big I'm not a big believer in adopting first generation technology or newer releases of software. However, Riverbed was able to talk us into going with their new version 8.0, and I think they've just released 8.5 now. But so we actually did go with version 8.0 because it had been out for several months, and they said, hey, we've smoothed out most of the issues, and we found that to be mostly the case, except for with Windows 7. I think. And I think we didn't find this early on because there's not a lot of organizations that were early adopters of Windows 7 and rushed out and put it in. I mean, I think a lot of companies, if you're like us, you wait a few months or even a year or two before you implement something like that. So with Windows 7 comes new protocols like SMB2, and Riverbed had some issues handling that, so we actually had to turn that off because it was causing some issues. So.
And the other thing I wanted to note too, we do a lot of things for you folks, and anytime an organization takes on big projects, and this was a big project to take this on, you look at the environment of what else was going on. Explain kind of what's been happening with SNR, with mergers and other things going on, and how much did that impact the ability to execute on this project?
Yeah, so with growth comes a lot of change. And with change, some people like it, some people don't. And as a result of that, there was a high turnover rate, which is why I'm in the position I am now, because some people chose to leave, and I chose to leave where I was and came over to Dentons. But so there's really been a lot of turnover, even at the leadership levels, CIO levels. We've had 2 CIOs now in the last 2 years, and we're without a CIO right now. So if you know anybody, let me know. But because I don't want the job. But so with
you're not selling it very well, Jason.
So with that, it's challenging to get people to commit to decisions and make decisions, and it's challenging to keep staff too. And we've lost some good people through this transition as well. And RKON has been very helpful in filling in with some very high quality people, and one that I'm hoping I can hire. So we still need to talk about that.
Oh no.
So they've really been instrumental in helping us meet these key milestones and these dates, and even some of the issues that we ran into with our Citrix deployment on the back end, some of the performance issues early on, that some of the bottlenecks that we ran into, they were able to very quickly get some Citrix experts on site to help us find those Citrix bottlenecks and really bring those to resolution very quickly, because if not, I probably wouldn't be sitting here employed by Dentons right now. So, but really they've been a great partner throughout this, not only in the Riverbed implementation, but really the Citrix deployment as well.
Thanks, Jason. The other thing I wanted to point out too is you were merging with another organization at the same time, and so there's politics, personnel, and merging of systems networks at the same time. So I was impressed that you actually pulled this project off. There's a lot of other projects running alongside this, and this was the one that seemed to go on time, on schedule, and didn't have that product availability in foreign countries is now the biggest hiccup to deploying it, which is unusual. So I think it's a good case study of picking the right product and going through the right methodology up front.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you have any closing thoughts, and then we can open it up for questions?
No, not really. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now. Or yeah, sure.
Sure. The first question I have is regarding whether or not you use a desktop acceleration client as well as the hardware client.
Yeah, great question. So Riverbed also has desktop acceleration client, and in my experience, we actually had proof of concept that at my previous company, and we didn't really see the benefit. We couldn't, we didn't see, the users didn't see any performance increase. We didn't really see it. We couldn't measure it. It was difficult for us to measure that. So we actually, have looked at that for, remote clients, people VPNing and things like that. But and from what I've seen anyway, my initial experience and our proof of concept, we didn't see the benefit of it, so we haven't deployed that.
The next question I have, and we're a shop that has over 500 locations. We have acceleration deployed throughout our environment. The biggest thing that we've had to overcome is teaching offshore personnel how to understand telemetry. Once you go into an accelerator in a compressed environment, you've got a different methodology of looking at the data that's coming through the pipe. You no longer want an empty pipe. You want to see it full, because you're compressing and accelerating that data through the pipe. Have you had the similar type of situation where you're dealing with training people and bringing them up to a new thought pattern regarding how to manage bandwidth capacity?
Well, not really. I think because I have some strong engineers that are familiar with some optimization technology. But I think you brought up a great point, which I meant to hit on as well. Which Riverbed also, one of the things that it's going to do, it's not only going to give you a better experience, but it really allows you to see into the type of traffic that's going on your network. It really breaks it down for you, and very nice, easy to understand visual graphs, and you can go really as deep as you want to go into the data to find out what is really running across your network, and that the visibility to the traffic is, to me, that's also just another huge benefit that it brings, and that was something that we didn't see in the in the other products either. So,
Kevin?
How many people actually went with Citrix when you gave the choice between physical desktop and Citrix?
It's surprisingly a lot. I'm not, I'm slowly going over to that Citrix world as well. But I would say probably about 60%. Yeah.
What was the and before this project, Was there a skepticism over moving to Citrix, or?
Yeah, and I think part of that was just the infrastructure and lack of Dentons has gone through a lot of different iterations in technology, and I think there was just a mistrust of the technology that was there. People didn't trust it, and they really have to begin to trust the infrastructure, because when you are running Citrix, it's really your infrastructure is really what matters, and that's where the key is. It's in your infrastructure, and being able to build that up with like the Cisco UCS and getting rid of some of those older servers that things were running on, I think was key to that reliability.
Yeah, I think, and that's a common thing we run into. Often it's, introducing Citrix, it by itself isn't as much of an issue, but it will expose every weakness you have in your infrastructure, and I think that interplay is often part of the challenge. Mike?
Sorry to hog the ball.
Please.
Two more questions. One, regarding your data center backend, did you integrate your UCS with the Nexus platform, or did you stay with standard switching environment?
So we actually did bring in the Nexus 5000s and 2000s. We didn't do the 7000 for cores, but we hung the 2000s and 5000s off of our existing 6500s.
Yep. Okay. And then, did you allow a bring your own device strategy along with the Citrix strategy? So that, it opens it up.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we want to get to, and we're not there yet. But there are a lot of people that use tablets and things like that with the Citrix receiver to quickly check email and things like that. So it's a very secure way for them to do that, and we certainly want to expand that, and that's the direction that we're going. And we think Citrix is going to be able to provide us a way to open those doors up for that.
Great.
Any other questions? All right. Well, Jason, thanks a lot for your time, and I appreciate you coming up here.